Are we ready to talk a little transfer portal? That is today's topic. Should Mario Cristobal and the Miami Hurricanes take more players from the transfer portal than some of the other programs do? Or should the Hurricanes kind of sit back, let the program develop slowly, take high school kids, an occasional junior college player, and be traditional? That is the question. Here's the big thing that I have to say to that. It depends on the position that you're going to be recruiting. And I'm talking about O-line, quarterback, etc. Here's what I've learned over the first couple of years of the transfer portal. And then I'll break down Miami's situation and compare it to some other schools like Colorado's. Obviously, you just went crazy. They're at 50, 51 players from the portal that I know of. And then look at somebody like Georgia, Alabama, etc., that does it a little bit differently, that they pick an individual position, they just have a weakness and they go for it. So let's start with Miami. What does Miami need right now? All the press conferences that you've seen with Mario Cristobal since he arrived in Coral Gables, he doesn't just offer up a lot of things, but he did say something that was interesting that I find just amazing. Randomly, he was talking back about what happened in his first season with the Canes. And he discussed the point that is just great because it was honest. I'll give the guy credit. He went out of his way, unsolicited, to say that we didn't have the right body types, the right kind of players up front to run our offense the way we really wanted on the offensive line. Didn't have depth, the whole 9 yards. And then on top of it, they had three guys out at one point that were started. I mean, you're not going to win a lot of games when that happens, regardless of level. So he hit the portal. He kind of had to run his offense and to get to the depth that they needed, regardless of the offense, had to do it. Okay, I get that. Miami traditionally has a lot of skill players. South Florida is just loaded with receivers, running backs, and defensive backs, linebackers, etc. They haven't done it quite as much there that you might think, but they've still done it selectively because, believe it or not, Miami was short at corner, which it should never be the case. But again, it's the situation that Cristobal and his staff inherited. They were short there. Safety wasn't great, even though they had two elite players. Like the depth is just getting started with a couple of younger guys that are really good, but they're short there as well in terms of what you would expect from Miami. Should they continue this? Two parts. Number one, when somebody gets hurt, turns pro early, or a kid's elite player and he's a bust, sometimes it just doesn't work out of high school. I expect them to continue to use the portal. But that's part one. Part two is more important. It needs to develop and morph into what Georgia, Alabama, Notre Dame does this a little bit, Michigan, etc. It's more development as the program grows. Right now, I believe Miami's at about 16 players from the portal that they have for 23. Like Terry Roberts from Iowa, no matter the program, I can see why you would take him. Hasn't given up a touchdown, if I remember right, or like maybe one in his career. Guy's good. Hell yeah, bring him on. He needs a corner. Premium position of need, experienced, played at Iowa, a school that puts DBs in the league. Absolutely. Take Terry Roberts. No problem. Devontae Brown, 3-year starter at UCF, long, 6'2". Let's do it. Those kind of kids, I gravitate towards that. A.J. Allen out of Nebraska, he's a kid from Monroe, Louisiana, played at Neville. That's a really good high school program. Two guys on Miami staff, both coordinators are Louisiana guys. So they've been there forever, and they probably have some other connections to that region as well. Miami's going to recruit there anyway. Okay, he's a proven player. Bring him in. They needed a little running back help. But now we get really into the previews and everything, getting ready to start for the 2023 football season. Once you get into June, that's going to happen. You kind of look forward to the next season, what you're kind of preparing. You look at your depth chart, the 25 recruiting class, this all blends together, it all meshes. I think Miami will backtrack, and specifically in an area that this is very good for the program. This is why Miami has hope long term. They took 5 linemen in the 2023 high school recruiting class. Now, you can look at it any way you want, but they took elite guys. That was an incredibly talented offensive line class. Alex Mirabal did a good job recruiting, but the whole staff did. But it takes longer to develop linemen. It's one of the reasons that the portal has been so successful is you can kind of circumvent having developed kids, because the leash is short on you being able to win as a coach, and then they pull it and they fire you. So coaches go for the portal. I get that. But with the help, they got two really good portal players that have walked in and basically going to be starters, Cohen and Lee at guard and center. And I think they'll both be drafted after this year. Shouldn't be a problem. That'll give you more kudos in the 25, but they'll have a decent O-line class in 24 as well. You get the 23 is elite, 24 pretty good. You get another 25 class, like 4 kids. They can really lower the numbers. And let's be realistic, using a parallel, Miami is not going to be in this situation at corner very long. They're not. Stafford came in, really talented player, and they have also got Damari Brown, Devontae's younger brother, ironically, coming in. You keep bringing in classes like that, you'll be fine. Again, if you can get Terry Roberts in any year, I don't know why you would pass on that, because he could play a nickel, outside, inside. It doesn't matter. That guy is a tremendous football player. But outside of a kid like that, I think the numbers will go down. Here's the comparison overall, though. When I looked at Georgia's transfer portal class, they had 4 guys. 4. That's literally 4 times as many for Miami as compared to Georgia. Why? Well, they've had the same coaching staff there for the most part. I mean, a few guys have moved back around and here and there, but Kirby's had the same system in place, the same recruiting philosophy, and he recruits hard as all get out. Give the man credit. And they've developed. They're getting the elite players. They've won enough games where they're just going to get elite players. This is not a newsflash. They don't have to depend on the portal for those O-line guys. D-line either. I mean, Miami needed D-line depth. They went out and got some. Brandon Dean, etc. They haven't had to do it. So I think long-term, like right now it's 15 or so for Miami. And I get it. It's unfortunate, but I get it. 2 years from now, this conversation will be Miami 5 kids, 6, maybe 7 or 8, if kids leave early, something like that. But you might see a few classes between 4 and 5 because Miami's depth on the O-line, D-line will be better, and corner again. There's no way. I didn't want to spend a lot of time on this, but it's just a reminder. What you inherit is what you've got to adapt to. It's this mindset that Miami, I've heard people talk about, they're hitting the portal a lot. Why is that? It's because the roster wasn't where it needed to be. This is not a difficult thing. It's not a forest for the trees. It's what you think it is. They were not as talented as they needed to be. They needed to purge the roster in the sense, if you don't want to be here, there's a portal, you can leave. This is what we're going to run. This is what we're going to do. Some kids left. And amen to that. You have to coach to what you're going to do. So certain kids didn't want to put up with that, and they left. Whatever. Now they're also like Cameron Kinchins. They've got some guys that could, well, both safeties could leave. James Williams definitely could leave too. He's a freak. They got a couple guys that might leave. They'll probably take a portal guy in safety after this next year too. I get that. But overall, I'm going to go with 5 to 7. Should Miami recruit, like this question scrolling across the bottom here? Cristobal and Miami recruit on the transfer portal as much? Right now, yes, but this is soon to change. It's really a 2-part answer. And it's something that I think is very important for people to learn. Once we see Miami taking those 4 to 6, maybe 7 or 8 kids, cutting it in half or less, that's a sign that the program is much healthier. The only caveat, again, is that, you just have that year where like 7 guys turn pro early. That's rough. Then you can kind of throw that out the window. You got to take a few more portal guys just to fill out your roster. That aside, I'm saying 4 to 6. So I'm curious what people think about this. Please comment. If you have a different view, by all means, let me know. Maybe it's a positional thing. Obviously, quarterback like Tyler Van Dyke, he'll probably leave after this year. Should they take a transfer quarterback to compete with Ja'Cory Brown and Emory Williams? It's debatable. Comment on it. I'm more than happy to not just go into it, but like dive into it deep, because quarterback in particular, that's a whole nother animal because it's such an important position that it's not really comparable to anything else. I'm curious to hear what you think. And then also the transfer portal, like what do you think about it long-term for Miami? Should they just be trying only to fix like early entries, or do you think there's certain positions like O-line, because it does take longer to develop, they should be more active with? I'm curious about that as well. So please like and subscribe this podcast, share it, and comment on it as much as you'd like. I'm curious. This is one of the things I've been trying to figure out for a while because it's so complex and we don't have any data on it really. It's only been here for a couple of years where the whole thing is going on with the no sit out rule on the transfer. That's the big part. Again, Colorado has 50 kids. Dion's taken his whole roster and flipped it over. I think it's a terrible idea long term, and I don't think that's sustainable. I know they needed more talent, but I just don't see how you can win that way. And I don't want Miami or anybody else to look at it like that. So, need to develop high school kids. You need to run your program, develop them from the beginning of their career in college all the way through until the very end. So, Brian Smith, have a great day. Thank you very much.